Hi, everybody. My name's Chris James, and you're watching Healthy Alternative. Today, we're going to be interviewing Stephen Applegate. He's had a phenomenal health journey thus far. He's been doing or has performed a 100-day water fast, and we're going to get into a little bit of that, as well as, what are some of the things that he's been dealing with and why did he even go through all of this. So it's going to be a really exciting episode, so stay tuned. We're missing a piece of the puzzle.
You start getting healthy and you just become a better person.
We need to start focusing more on the individual.
So Stephen, that's my brother's name. I don't know if you knew that. One of my brothers, he's named Stephen.
I caught a few of your YouTube episodes, and I watched about a handful or so.
Okay, cool. So I gotta ask, where were you mentally and physically to want to do something like an extended water fast like that? What was it that kind of, created that environment for you to need to do something that not necessarily extreme? I don't think it's extreme. I think it's wonderful. But what would kind of push you to that point?
Well, it was all thanks to you guys. The A Healthy Alternative Facebook group was my motivation. Before finding you on social media, on Facebook, I had no knowledge whatsoever of water fasting. To tell you the truth, I have a YouTube channel where I put a few videos, and you can find that at Coyote Bullet. And that was my personal channel where I had a lot of vlogs and video for family excursions and adventures and so forth. And it was a lot of vlog formatting. And then I started getting into blockchain technology. So I started refining it with the green screen and having some backdrops and animations. And it was very stressful. And now that we're a year after the fact that Bitcoin saw a tremendous high of $19,000, I took the time between March and April to really shift my focus on my health, especially as I was watching myself on these YouTube videos that I was creating and the overall weight that I portrayed on the screen. So television adds 10 pounds. YouTube literally had 75 pounds on me. I looked at myself and I thought, it's really time to make a change. I started juicing. I broke out the old Juice Man juicer that I had back in 2001, dusted it off, and I started juicing habanero pepper with ginger root, of all things.
Yeah.
And I've got a video on that. It's like a cooking show, that episode. So I invite you to check it out. But that really got me started on focusing on some healthy changes. But it wasn't until July 17th, Tuesday, July 17th of this past summer, that I came across your YouTube channel, your Facebook group, and literally within 3 hours, I decided I'm going to try this water fast. And
Wow.
did it. My last meal was a handful of almonds, and I described that in my YouTube video. For the first 3 days, I lost 10 pounds.
Wow.
And I didn't really do any before and afters as things progressed, but I went the first 3 days and thought to myself, after losing 10 pounds, I can continue this effort and see where it goes. And it really led to a tremendous and a very long journey of 100 days, as you know, for me to go from July 18th, which was a Wednesday, every other 7 days, religiously, consecutively, from July 18th to Thanksgiving Day, which was my last feast. And then I went 34 days straight from Thanksgiving to Christmas Day, where I broke my fast with 1 grape, a kiwi, and a pear.
That's a great way to break it, though. Like 1 grape. There's a couple things I want to get to, but I'm curious with the 1 grape thing. Because like usually when I break my fast, I'll have like a handful of grapes. Was it just the fact that you just couldn't eat too much more than kind of that little bit, or were you really just being very specific about how much food you were putting in, so you were just kind of watching yourself?
Well, I knew that for every week of fasting, you technically should have a day of recovery, and you should definitely take into account the fruits or vegetables that you're going to be incorporating into your diet very slowly. And I knew that certain fruits had a high fructose content, and grapes were one of them. So they were bitter. They were from the grocery store. My wife actually bought 2 batches, and we couldn't figure out why the flavor and the taste was so bitter. You know, for one, they weren't organic. They were sprayed with pesticides. Who knows if it, you know, the batch was just inundated with these chemicals that really put a bad taste on your palate. But I didn't have an issue with the one grape. There wasn't any intention of just eating one. I just knew I was going to go through this break of the fast for 5 days consecutive. So I went and I dedicated the time between Christmas Day and New Year's Day for those 5 days to reintroduce solid foods by blending fresh fruits. We had a lot of frozen fruits that we incorporated into this batch. I had a 36-quart kettle on my stove where I took all the fruits that I diced up and prepared, you know, for the freezer. My hands were frozen because I was churning it in this big vat. And I do everything in bulk. And in the beginning stages, when I started going every 7 days, and in between 7 days of refeeding or feasting, I would incorporate quinoa, wild rice, and a blend. So I came up with a recipe where I prepared about 20 pounds of this stuff with superfoods, including hemp seed, chia seed, flax, and whole grains, ancient grains, all in this concoction where I froze 1 pound portions and put them in the freezer. And during that 7-day period that I was eating, I would take 1 block out of the freezer. I would let it thaw the night before. I'd get to work, sit down with the guys at the break room. I'd have my leafy greens, arugula, a dollop of tzatziki sauce, and I'd put the wild rice concoction onto the bed of lettuce, and it was great. Wow. And I enjoyed that for weeks and months at a time. I still have some in the freezer from October. I'll be sure to probably be eating that in the coming week. But technically, between July 18th through Thanksgiving, that was a total of 20 weeks.
Okay.
I recorded all of my effort through the MyFitnessPal app, which is quite impressive to watch the progress of my consistent decline of weight from a high of 292 pounds. So I was nearly 300 pounds to currently stepping on the scale yesterday morning at 208 pounds. So I've had some fluctuation there. So the 100-pound mark, technically at 100 days, which commenced the Saturday before last. So 2 weeks ago was actually the 100-day mark. So 100 pounds and 100 days of water fasting was my goal. And I did, to tell you the truth, I fell short by about 8 pounds. So technically I did not reach 192. In fact, I didn't get under the 200-pound mark. So I was very close.
But you look great. You look great. Like I said, or like you said, you didn't do the before and after, so I don't have the comparison. But all I could tell you is you look great now, so that's good. And yep. I think if your goal was 100 pounds in 100 days, and you only missed the mark by 8 pounds, that's phenomenal. I mean, because that's not easy to do. And I really like that the strategy you set up for yourself. A lot of people will kind of complain that, well, I don't only eat the same thing all the time. But I guess if you're doing 7 days of fasting and then you eat this concoction that you kind of put together, was probably pretty satisfying, seeing how you was doing all that fasting prior to eating it. So sure. That sounds like a really good idea for people to, maybe make their own. And I loved how you put it, you just kind of mass produced it and you ate it in. So I want to get a little bit more specific with your protocol, just so that we're all clear. So you would fast, and it sounds like you changed it up a little bit too throughout this process, but you would fast for 7 days. Then you would break it and you would have this natural grain concoction thing with your leafy green. And then how long would you typically eat before you started fasting again?
7 days. So
okay.
Every other 7 days.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to kind of make sure. So that's dope. So you're including, so the entire time, it was the 7 days fasting, 7 days eating. and you did that from, you said you started in July?
July 18th.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's phenomenal personally. And I love the way you set it up because it's like, it's very consistent, and that's like the key. That I think that's why you had so much amazing success. You were consistent, you had a plan, it was meticulous. It sounds like, so now I want to ask you, throughout this process, how challenging was this for you? Because even the way you set it up, it sounds like it's very smart. Was it challenging at all? Did you have some really hard times?
Absolutely, without a doubt. As everybody proclaims in the group, I found so much support on a Healthy Alternative Facebook group who's joining us live. There's about 14 people watching right now. So I want to thank everybody who's joining in on the Facebook live broad stream. And, if I didn't have the support of the members of this group, I wouldn't have made it past the first week. I got involved. I started posting my questions. Why am I having flank pain? How am I supposed to feel at 5 days? Is it really normal to have these enormous cravings after 36, 48 hours? Absolutely. In fact, 5 days, I started from Monday of this week with a little bit of a different regimen, and that's blending fresh fruits. And I actually commenced from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday going through a fresh carrot juice with dandelion leaves and fresh berries with vegan protein powder, MCT oil, incorporating golden echinacea tinctures to the mix. So I actually brew my own kombucha, and people on social media say, well, this guy's got an agenda. He's trying to sell his product. I'm not. In fact, the reason that I've gotten through this entire water fast is because of this kombucha tea. And herbal teas, green tea, soursop tea, which has high anti-cancer properties, was just the magical elixir that really got me through this. And the support of the Facebook group, everybody commenting and saying, you can do this. I did it. And at some point around September, October, I lost about 50 pounds and I felt tremendous. And I knew that this euphoria, this synergy, this homeopathic approach to really changing my health and my view really set me on the path of making a significant change. And that's where I started the Applegate experience.
So, okay. Well, I want to talk about the Applegate experience in a second. The kombucha and things like that. So when you were doing your 7 days, you would have the kombucha on during your the 7 days of fasting.
Yep.
I mean, one of the members in the group sent me a Scooby. Is that what they're called? A Scooby?
SCOBY, SCOBY, symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast.
Yeah, and I don't know, I must have messed it up or something. Mine ended up having these little like worms or something, I don't know if they call them eels or whatever. So I couldn't drink it, but a lot of people love that stuff. So if you can nail down how to make it and it's like, it's good, it's nice. Does it have like it's like a carbonated drink almost?
It's a natural carbonization that happens through the second fermentation process. And I can go on about the process in which it's made, but the main ingredients is black tea, which has caffeine, and green tea. But
Okay.
The sugars are all metabolized by the symbiotic colony through the fermentation process. So the end product really has very little to no sugar at all. So
Right.
it's perfect if you go to the supermarket or the Whole Foods. You can get this off of your grocery store shelf for about $3 or $4, and it becomes very expensive. So I was drinking copious amounts of water, a gallon a day. I also incorporated about 24 ounces of tea in the morning. My normal routine would usually be a coffee. I switched that up for a green tea, herbal tea, with no sugar, no added whatever it may be.
Right.
And really got off of that. I tried black coffee for a while. It just didn't work. I don't care for black coffee whatsoever. However, recently, breaking the fast on Christmas, I started doing bulletproof coffee with some coconut oil and MCT oil, because MCT, medium chain triglycerides, definitely absorb directly into the bloodstream through the stomach lining. So that was important for me to get off of the 34-day fast because I was very weak. And I know you went 30 days. I watched your live stream where you broke your fast with those exotic fruits that you got from Miami.
Right.
And I just went to the local Asian market, and we bought a lot of fruits and vegetables for that week in preparation of that event. So it was very, very involved as far as getting the ingredients together and having enough in bulk so that I can make it easy, so I can just get into the freezer, defrost it, throw it in the blender, blend it up, drink it, be on my way. And the scheduling was key. It's important for you to really focus on the end goal, and that's to reach an attainable weight, whatever it may be, but set a realistic goal and understand that you're not going to lose 50 pounds in a month. And no matter how hard you try, you can go the whole 30 days and lose a tremendous amount of weight, but you can also cut your left leg off and lose 40 pounds.
Right.
So there are healthy ways of doing things, and I follow 2 doctors right now, most importantly, to find out more information for myself, for my regimen, to really maintain this weight. And that is Dr. Eric Berg and Dr. Alan Goldhammer with True North Health Facility out in California.
Okay. So I'm curious throughout. Okay. So like, let's go back before you kind of like started this process, you were roughly 100 pounds heavier. What was your diet like? And then what is your diet like now that you've gotten the opportunity to kind of start eating again?
My grandmother called me the junk food junkie when I was 10, 12 years old. We would visit my grandmother's house. The first thing I do is hit the Doritos through the pantry. And I was always a little bit heavier as a teenager and getting into high school. It wasn't until I was about 18 years old where I really started slimming down and going to the gym and strength training. I would jog to work 4 miles in each direction. I would ride my bicycle to the gym, and I'd go 5 days a week. And I also had, around that time, a spinal fusion in 2000. So the cervical spine is fused with a 64 millimeter titanium plate with 8 screws. They've also taken a bone graft from my right hip, which severed the nerve, so I don't have any feeling in my right thigh. They put the bone from my hip into the cervical vertebrae, which fused my spine from that point forward. So for 19 years now, I've had a lot of referred pain and a lot of discomfort. And I think that around that time, things started to decline. For 18, 19 years now, my habits changed. I smoked cigarettes for several years, and my diet consisted of fast food, hamburgers, and processed high carbohydrates, meat and potato comfort foods, junk foods. Taco Bell was probably my favorite. I'd go to the drive-thru and spend $40, between my wife and I and our newborn baby at that time. And we've been married over 10 years now, but the routine became detrimental because the meat and potatoes and coming home and to a full plate, which really is about 3 times the portion size that any normal person really should eat. But I focused on, probably in the last 5 years, changing my routine slightly by eating later in the day. And I think the intermittent fasting was kind of what I had in mind, by not eating until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then taking that hour between 1 and 7 o'clock p.m. to have that window of time to eat. And I lost about 20 pounds doing that. I'd say about in 2015, where I joined the gym again. And I tried to focus a little bit more on my health. I quit smoking cigarettes back in 2012. So thank goodness for that. So I've really detoxified my life tremendously in the last 7 months, specifically because all of those heavy metals from non-organic raised cattle that, of course, are grazing off of land, being injected with all types of growth hormones. And I saw one of your recent videos where your guests were talking about that exactly. And that's exactly what I experienced, was the detoxification in the immediate weeks of starting this water fast. So for anybody who's interested in learning about this technique, research it online, follow Alan Goldhammer, and he really goes into detail as far as the specifics are concerned. And I know you have tremendous amount of information that's helpful in the biology of that and general understanding, but for anybody to really go through it and be convicted, because by day 5, you're going to give up if you're not knowledgeable about what to expect and your goals and how to manage your expectations for that duration. It may be 5 months. It may be a year down the road that you need to lose 100 pounds.
Right.
100 days and 100 pounds, it was my goal, and it was realistic. And I didn't come up with that until probably the 3rd or 4th week in October. Going through the Applegate Experience podcast, I would go on an 8-mile walk every Sunday through the mountains here, what I call Shangri-La. And I would just walk for 3 hours, and I would record myself just talking to myself like this for an hour at a time. And I started the podcast, and my goal was really to get people aware in audio format, because it's pitch black. It's 4:30 in the morning. I can't even see the street in front of me. In fact, I missed my route one time, and I added another 2 miles to my walk because I was doing my podcast. I was in the zone, walking pitch black, and all I could see was this photoluminescent algae on the pathway that was glowing at night. It was almost as if, and I was going through my fast at that time, it was almost as if it were a hallucination. And the journey and understanding that you really have to get in the zone. And right now I've got some meditation music playing in the background. I don't know if that's coming into the speakers or not, but it was a harmonious, complementary concoction of activities, scheduling, listening to specific types of music that really relaxed me at certain points during the day. I would take 20 minutes on occasions to do just a transcendental meditation process, which really gets you to focus on being quiet and your energy and qi and so forth. I dabbled a little bit in qigong and researching the technique of Chinese medicine and meditation processes, but it really comes down to the journey. And this life that we live is so hectic, so chaotic. I'm a sales representative by trade. My 9-to-5 job, even though it exceeds those hours of operation, really take a lot of, I'd say 90% of my time and effort to bring home the bacon.
Right.
And I can go for some bacon. My wife was willing to make me some bacon and eggs this morning. I said, no, that stuff is poison. But it's really not if you take it in moderation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've researched some cultures, some ancient cultures that were able to live quite a long time, and they still ate meat. People think that meat is like the big thing, like, yeah, if you want to be healthy, you can't have meat anymore. And it's not really about having meat or not having meat. The meat that we have, as you mentioned earlier, is toxic. But let's say we can get some healthy meat, right, that's sourced from an organic farmer or something like that, local, and that he's not giving them antibiotics and whatnot. Then you could have meat, but we eat it so much, so changing, like you said, changing how you eat is really significant if you're going to be eating that. Now, if you're going out to a restaurant or something like that, you don't really know what you're getting. I mean, there's no one that's like regulating it. There's nobody saying, oh yeah, for sure, this is raised by, organic farm and it's healthy and blah, blah, blah. So I just decided to kind of take meat out because I feel like it's a risk if I don't, like I don't really know what I'm getting. So I just took meat and dairy completely out. So it sounds like you still do eat a little meat sometimes. Is there anything that you've taken out completely, or is there something new that you brought in that you weren't doing before? Like, did you just cut anything out?
I think for the most part, because of my routine going every other week, pretty much, besides that long 3.5, 4 weeks in December, it really only allows me certain windows of time to eat what's available. So it comes down to what my wife is preparing for the most part. If I bring anything to work, it's the wild rice
Right.
and quinoa blend, like I said. So whatever my wife has ready for me when I walk in the door, for the most part, I'll go for it. But the portions have changed. It's 1/3 of what it used to be. Not because I can't fit it in my stomach. It's because I've managed my habit to really cut down how much I'm eating. So
Right.
it could be anything. I can still snack on Doritos and Cheez-Its, and I love them. But I know the chemicals and compounds and preservatives that are in these things, once they are in your system and accumulating over time in years, you have about 5 pounds of microorganisms in your digestive tract at any given time. So what they have to do is they digest what you're eating as well, and also give off a byproduct, and that
Right.
is gaseous and solid materials. So think about the 5 pounds of organic biology that's living in your system. That's why kombucha definitely assisted me in the probiotic sense to really bring my digestive tract, you know, on par, up to par, so that I didn't have so much detriment reintroducing foods into my diet the first 2 or 3 days, coming back onto it. So it really kept my metabolism, I think, up to speed, but also had some nutritional benefit with the kombucha because of the vitamins that are in there. People always ask if I'm taking a multivitamin, and yes, I took a multivitamin on occasion. It wasn't on a daily basis, but I am a true believer in, making sure that you get as much plant-based food into your.
If
Sure,
you
I'm
if
not
you
sure exactly where it cut out, but I was talking about the routine and just focusing on um, the portion control was important, and I incorporated a lot of other complementary techniques throughout the last 4 months specifically. So at the end of September, I incorporated what is known as cannabidiol, CBD oil, and this is something that I feel has definitely facilitated with that last stretch of weight loss, because once you get to about 40 pounds of weight loss, 50 pounds, I see a lot of comments on the group as far as hitting a plateau at some point. And with CBD oil, I found a lot of success in the alleviation of the neurological discomfort, as I said, with the spinal fusion. I have a lot of nerve pain and a lot of weakness in the right side of my body, on the shoulders, and my right arm specifically. So inflammation is one of the benefits of CBD oil, as far as many testimonials and scientific research backing these benefits. But it also benefits a whole other slew of ailments, from cardiac issues to fibromyalgia, fighting depression, anxiety, ADHD, and has even been approved by the FDA for the treatment of seizures as well.
Yeah, I've done some research on just the cannabis in general, and I think that it's an herb just like any other herb. That's the way I look at it, and herbs tend to be beneficial. They tend to have, I've seen kids who have seizures every day put a couple drops of CBD oil under their tongue and their seizures stop. So I think there is benefit for utilizing something like that, especially as you're going through your process and you're experiencing pain or discomfort, or in your case where you've got the spinal your spine's kind of seized up and things like that. So yeah, I can understand that. I wanted to ask you about how this affected your family, because I know a lot of people who go through these processes, either they're not getting a lot of support from their family, or their family thinks that they're going to, kill themselves. So I'm just curious, like, what was it like maybe seeing your journey through your wife's perspective?
My wife had a very difficult time accepting it. It took her months for her to become acclimated to the routine, simply because she's Eastern European. The meat and potatoes are a staple food. You make up some pork chops with some mashed potatoes, and you throw some green beans on that plate, and you're done. For the most part, you should be just eating the green beans, for the health benefit, because the starchy foods, the high fatty proteins, to excess. It was just very difficult for her to just make the food for the children alone. And of course, my son, who's 7, is picky to begin with and would only go for chicken nuggets and French fries. So she would be, breaking up the dinner preparation to cater to his needs for many times during the week. She would make 2 or 3 different types of foods. So when I'm out of the picture, she actually had it a little bit easier, so she didn't have to make as much, obviously. And I would just have a cup of tea, or I would just drink about another 24 or 36 ounces of water for the evening from the time I got home around 4 o'clock in the evening, early evening, and I would go to bed around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So, very consistent with my schedule. I would wake up at 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd get to the office as early as 4:25. I'd get to the office, and it's just for whatever reason, my circadian rhythms have changed. My sleep pattern actually improved, and my quality of sleep definitely. I felt well rested waking up. I'd land both feet on the ground, coming off of the bed, and that was just a conscious effort to get both feet simultaneously together when I took my first step for the day, thinking to myself, it's going to be a tremendously productive and healthy day.
Wow.
That I'm going to focus on the same routine. I'm going to go through the same steps, the same procedure. I'm going to have my 3 cups of herbal teas in the morning by 10 a.m. I would start my kombucha probably around 11 to 1 o'clock. So I would have about 16 ounces to 24 ounces of kombucha for the lunch hours. And then I would continue with more herbal teas, including something recently that I just incorporated into my diet this week was mushroom tea. And it's an infused product that I picked up in the local market, and it was tremendous. I got it on sale. I worked with the manager. I took every single bottle off his shelf, and I got it for 99 cents as opposed to $4 a piece. And I'm enjoying it. I got a whole refrigerator full of mushroom tea.
Interesting. Well, I guess you can make tea out of pretty much anything. So, and mushrooms are amazing. There's so much variety, and it's always weird to me when people are like, I don't like mushrooms. I'm like, that's like saying you don't like movies. Like, you might not like a particular movie or a genre of movies, but to just not like movies, that's a big statement. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, that's interesting then. With your family and everything, it seemed like it kind of worked out. It seemed like you didn't have too much pressure, too much, pushback on that, which is good. So many people just, I don't know, like, it's weird to me that our family sometimes don't really support us. I understand, like, not knowing what's going on. Some people aren't even interested to learn. And this kind of goes back to what you said earlier, just as an individual going through this process, you need to learn, like, as much as you can about the process. I like people jumping in and, getting started in some way, but like a lot of times people will hop in, they'll do like 2 weeks, and then they find it difficult to get back into the swing of things because that excitement and that zeal that they had when they originally learned about it is gone. And now they don't have anything to stand on. And what you stand on is the information, the research that you've done. Even if it just means going through the Healthy Alternative playlist. I mean, there's so much information in there that would be beneficial. It'll give you an idea of what to research and, kind of what to look for. So, yeah, I would definitely encourage anybody out there who's gonna attempt something that, like what Stephen has done, to do a lot of research. And if you're not in the Healthy Alternative Facebook group, I would highly suggest that, because there's so much information, good information, and it's, if nothing else, it's just really supportive. So for you to attempt something like that, and I'm sure, Steve would interact with you and things like that as well, for you to attempt something like this, it would just make it easier, because it's easier when you have people around you who are doing similar things, who have kind of been where you're going to be, and, things of that nature. So I know you had the live stream set up. Did you want to grab a couple questions out of there?
I think everybody's just saying hello. And
okay.
I think it's tremendous that this is one of the most positive Facebook groups on the platform. there are hardly any critics in the group, 20,000+ who are involved, and it's all positive support. And again, if you have somebody there to support you, whether it's a family member or a friend, colleague, an associate, I share every day my experiences with cashiers at the local organic food market. I was at yesterday afternoon picking up some dandelion leaves for my blend.
Right.
But she was very impressed with my story in the 30-second elevator pitch that I was able to throw at her. You know what? I'm trying this today, and what do you think about it? Have you tried this particular item? No, I haven't. So you strike up a conversation, and I really just incorporate, this positiveness that I've acquired, and just trying to educate people in passing in the 30-second time frame, really just to plant that seed in somebody's head that really there's some change that can be made without, tremendous effort. It's just a matter of dedication, perseverance, setting your goals realistically, managing your own expectations, having the support, friends and family, coworkers, and social media, and just get that information out there so that people can interact with you, cross-posting on social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube clips, and, focus your success and share that. And I think that helps grow your ambition to really reinvent yourself. And I invite everybody to reinvent yourselves through this Applegate experience technique, whether it's 100 pounds in 100 days of water fasting, or you're just going to do an intermittent fast for, 5 days, or even just 2 days out of the 7 days throughout the week. There are different ways to go about it. Every individual is different. Your biology is all unique to yourself, your age, your health situation, whether or not you're on prescription medications. You can definitely find benefits through taking herbal supplements. As I experienced with my golden echinacea tinctures in my herbal teas, I haven't gotten sick in years since I've changed my focus. Probably since 2015, I haven't really fallen ill with any flu symptoms, which is great. And it's definitely a holistic approach, because you want to focus your spiritual journey and coincide that with your expectations in reaching the final goal, and being able to just bring that to others so that you can benefit one way or another, to just influence one person a day. If it just is changing somebody's direction one day at a time, it's important that you actually made a difference. And that's what the Applegate experience is about, because I really want to allow people to understand that if they just take the time to look inward, you have the possibility to experience the universe in a whole different way, whether it's through religion or just this spiritual enlightenment. But fasting definitely facilitates that. Once you get to a certain point, it's like a runner's high. And that's one of the perks of going through this process, whether it's 30 days or just 2 or 3 days.
Right.
A point in which you can exceed your own expectations and be proud of that. Your accomplishments mean a tremendous amount. And that's where I am today.
So what exactly is the Applegate experience? Something new that you developed after you kind of went through this process? Like, this isn't that you didn't have this 6 months ago, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
October 14th, I think, is when I started the podcast. In the second week of October, and it probably coinciding within the first weeks of the CBD oil as well. It really brought my awareness to a new level. And so I wanted to be vocal about that. And I think if I go into the endocannabinoid system and the neurological processes with CBD1 receptors and endocannabinoids, it really creates a balance. And I have a video on my YouTube channel under Applegate Management, which is the inside story. So you'll learn a tremendous amount about CBD through the inside story that I shared on Applegate Management on YouTube. And there's only a handful of videos that I created on that channel specifically for this. for the Applegate experience. Going
Right.
through the fasting, going through an intermittent fast, breaking your fast a certain way for whatever duration of time, and how to do that right. Incorporating, kombucha into your diet if in fact you want to try something that's a little bit unique. And I found a formula that works. And I wanted to publish this effort, and I went as far as putting an article on Medium, and it is just that, hashtag 100 pounds, 100 days. And I published that article back in early mid-December when I still had quite a few weeks ahead of me.
Right.
Here I am about a month out of that point, and it's a new chapter. Starting now in 2019, I have high expectations for myself. I have a lot of recovery. I have a lot of strength training to do. Even though my wardrobe has changed, I went from a size 42-inch waist to a 34-inch waist.
Wow.
Used to wear a size 18 dress shirt collar. This is a size 15 and a half, of all things. I haven't been this size since I was 17 years old.
Wow.
I am looking at myself in the mirror as a younger man, not necessarily myself as I was 20 years ago.
Right.
My birthday falls on Tuesday next week, so I'll be 41 years old. And I invite everybody to support Men Against Breast Cancer, as I was recently inducted yesterday with my colleague. He provided me this wonderful pin, and I have a fundraiser on Facebook for folks to donate to that cause. He had some personal struggles with his mother battling breast cancer. I myself, my mother-in-law, has been battling cancer to this day. She's going through chemotherapy and lost all her hair last week. So it's a good way to put some dollars to use and to bring awareness for those who are caregivers, who have loved ones, whether it be a wife or a mother or a family member who is dealing with breast cancer.
Well, that's commendable. I really like how, and this is kind of, I guess, what happened to me too, how you kind of go through this journey, and as you learn more, your perspective shifts, you clear out some of the gunk in your mind, that brain fog, and then you have this wonderful experience, and then you just want to share it with other people so that they can then have it. And that's literally exactly what happened to me. I learned about all this stuff, and I'm like, yo, the world has to know about this. So that's probably the ultimate that can happen, besides healing yourself and, having all the personal success. But to get to that point where it's like, now you're encouraged to share, like every day, make it a part of your life. You're sharing it with other people. It's like the whole each one, teach one thing. And, it won't take long if we all kind of take responsibility. It won't take long before we can start seeing a shift in the health of, our country, and then, of course, internationally, the rest of the world. And that's what it's all about for me, at least. And I see that's where you're at now. So that's amazing. So I feel like we've got an opportunity to flush out a lot of the details. I just wanted to kind of ask you, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up or talk about before we go ahead and end it?
Just a few things, probably. As I have my 9-to-5 responsibilities. I kind of rebranded myself. My personal image, my personal branding has gone through an evolutionary process the past 6 months. And 100 days and 100 pounds of water fasting, I really have had tremendous success. And again, my efforts in my pastime, in my leisure time, have shifted focus. So I really started to incorporate a lot of health and wellness information and shared it online. And I created Cherry Lane Associates to bring people together who are like-minded. And you may have seen some shares on your Facebook group that may have tagged that term.
Yeah.
But now Cherry Lane Associates is really just in its infancy. And I was partnering with local firms and sponsorship as well to bring some health and wellness information to our community, and to also have a physical brick and mortar facility location for a retreat of sorts. And for anybody who is interested, it's open to the public to just like the page I've created a private group that you can join, but there's just my wife and I at this point. And I haven't made it public in the last few days, as I just created the group Cherry Lane, Health and Wellness. But hopefully at some point in time, we could definitely have some physicians, healthcare professionals, physical therapists, and so forth, who are focused on this type of effort. And again, you mentioned that having a worldwide revolution is probably hundreds of years away, because we're just in the last 2 or 3 decades inundating ourselves with fast food and poor dietary choices, that it's going to take a tremendous effort for the system to change direction because of our infrastructure and how it's commercial based. People are out there to make money so they can sell their products on the shelves and have a high turnover, and we're just cattle in the trough. We're just feeding ourselves with whatever they're giving us. We have to make that decision to make a conscious effort to what's going in our body, whether it be through liquids, beverages, and solid foods. So drink lots of water. Think about inundating your body with fresh water that is just clean from the earth without having any unnatural preservatives that wreak havoc on the body. Even a diet soda and aspartame is going to have some ill effects on the body, especially as the materials build up in the liver and in your system. So a plant-based, SOS-free diet, SOS standing for the International Distress Signal, salts, oils, and sugars. Alan Goldheimer goes on and on about that, how to avoid those things from your life, and to have a plant-based, focused, healthy diet, free of any dying, rotting flesh.
There you go. Well, I think that term Cherry Lane, or the way you've named it, I like the way that sounds. It sounds inviting. It sounds somewhere safe. So I think you picked a great name for it. And having those types of facilities around where people can go in, because some people are still really into the old-fashioned way, meeting in person, and having someone they could talk to and go to and stuff like that. So I think that's a great idea. It's definitely something that at some point in time I'd like to do with the Healthy Alternative, create like wellness centers where people can go and have that in-person experience. So I commend you for that. And yeah, it's been an enlightening experience. I think that I've learned some good techniques that I can kind of share with people, and hopefully the audience has got some good stuff out of it as well. I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit your notification bell. Steven, I appreciate your time. Make sure to check out the Applegate Experience and Applegate Management. Is that what it was on YouTube?
Not only that, but I've got CBD Health Industries that I've started. So you can just head on over to the social media groups and find out some more information about that CBD oil.
He's all over the place. He's got companies popping up everywhere. So check him out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I'll see you guys next time.
Be well.